Playboy magazine reports it has just discovered blueprints for a network of tunnels beneath the mansion. Now dig this. A photo from the late 70s allegedly showing an excavation in progress beneath the mansion. And this one shows the newly discovered tunnel plans. Check out the bunny logo.
Breaking news out of Star Island. Several law enforcement agencies are raiding the home of hip-hop mogul P. Diddy.
And tonight, we are learning it may be tied to alarming allegations.
Playboy has waded into the Diddy controversy, and trust me, things are not looking good for the embattled CEO of Bad Boy Entertainment. The adult magazine appears to have betrayed one of their allegedly loyal patrons in what seems to be the betrayal of the century. If Playboy's latest revelations are valid, then the music mogul is in over his head on this one, and it's only a matter of time before he wears an orange suit. So what are the latest revelations from Playboy, and how does it all connect to Diddy's woes? Stay tuned because I've got all the 411 right here, ready to serve you.
Playboy magazine reports it has just discovered blueprints for a network of tunnels beneath the mansion.
Every passing minute appears to be agonizing for Puff Daddy as leaks and exposes are pouring in like water from a broken dam. Since last November, Diddy's life took a turn for the as a slew of women, empowered by his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, brought SA allegations against him. Just when he thought it was over, two men also filed lawsuits claiming that Diddy had touched them inappropriately and propositioned to sleep with them. As if that wasn't bad enough, feds from Homeland Security stomped Diddy's two homes in Miami and LA, hoping to fetch pieces of evidence that might be used against him if the case goes to trial. Just when we thought the dust was settling on the matter, CNN leaked a 2016 footage of Diddy beating up Cassie Ventura in a hallway at a hotel. The video drew the ire of fans across the globe, with many fans sharing and lambasting the Bad Boy CEO for laying his hand on a woman. Then, when we had seen or heard enough wickedness from the 52-year-old, Playboy joined the WhatsApp chat and leaked some pictures that appeared to substantiate certain past rumors. In the mid-2010s, some rumors were making rounds on the corners of the grapevine that Diddy had underground tunnels that led to and from the Playboy mansion. The rumors began when Diddy purchased a mansion valued at $40 million in 2014 in the same neighborhood as the Playboy mansion. According to unconfirmed sources, the tunnels were made so that Diddy could move effortlessly to the mansion without figuring out how to escape the prying eyes of the paparazzi. However, it all remained a rumor as no one had actually come forward to confirm seeing or using the purported tunnels. Playboy magazine couldn't confirm if there truly were tunnels because they appeared not to know about them. Well, all that has changed now, as reports indicate that the adult magazine found what appears to be blueprints from the 1970s and 80s that suggest tunnels were built to connect the homes of top stars to and from the mansion. According to the magazine, these underground tunnels were connected to the homes of Jack Nicholson, W. Beatty, K. Douglas, and J. Can. On how these pictures were discovered, we are told that an editor for the magazine was going through Playboy's archives when he chanced on some Polaroid pictures from the 80s. Examining the black and white pictures led to a startling revelation that sort of confirms what everyone had been saying since the 80s. There appeared to be secret underground tunnels that allowed the top stars we mentioned earlier to access the mansion without ever getting caught, and trust Playboy to keep the identities of their elite patrons secret. Now, the editor who discovered the photos didn't directly link any of the tunnels to Diddy's home. But if there's something we've learned about the music mogul, we know that there's more to him than what meets the eye. Diddy usually carries a calm, laid-back persona that is always about love. At the height of the East Coast-West Coast hip-hop rivalry, Diddy, along with Snoop Dogg, appeared on Steve Harvey's show to calm nerves and spread a message of peace and love. During his high-profile relationships with J-Lo and Cassie Ventura, Diddy exuded an image of a romantic, caring man who loved his girlfriends. At a point in his career, the music mogul referred to himself as Mr. Love, and even titled his latest album The Love Album Off the Grid. However, stories of people who know him and insiders who've rocked with him claim that he is the exact opposite of what he portrays on TV. Some of his former mentees and workers have come out gun blazing, exposing the "I'll be missing you" rapper for who he really is. They've accused him of all kinds of crimes, from extortion, ST, HT, and SA to unaliving people. So, the fact that the editor didn't identify a specific tunnel that led to Diddy's house doesn't mean there's none. One thing we've discovered about the music mogul is that he likes to perpetrate his alleged crimes in the dark. He also likes to disguise his moves and activities so they appear legit on the surface, but a deep dive reveals a host of rot that would make anyone puke. Take, for example, what he did to Cassie Ventura. Type the words Diddy and Cassie Ventura into any search engine, and you'll find lovely pictures of the duo's that oozes couple goals vibes. The two celebrities look dashing together, with Cassie's bright smiles perfectly complementing Diddy's slight frown. Their fashion choices together are a match made in even, giving sweet vibes as they rocked the red carpet. However, beneath all the glitz and glam was an extremely toxic relationship that was eating the two of them up. Diddy allegedly visited some of the most heinous atrocities a man could even think of on Cassie, which still shocks fans to this day. I mean, we are talking about forcing his girlfriend to sleep with male streetwalkers while he sat down to watch and record. He beats her up whenever she stands her ground and decides to go against his wishes. He plied her with so many that she couldn't just resist whatever requests he made of her. Cassie was wilting inside, but the music mogul always cleaned her up and presented her in public as if all was well with her. Therefore, if such a man could allegedly perpetrate all these crimes and still disguise them, it is possible that there are actual tunnels leading from Diddy's house to the mansion and back. Mind you, rumors of the underground tunnels made rounds in the 1970s and 80s, but were only recently confirmed. So, Diddy's tunnels could exist, but it would be a matter of time before concrete evidence is brought forward. Meanwhile, many fans suspect these underground tunnels served other purposes than just connecting to the Playboy mansion. They theorize that these tunnels could have other secret passages leading to bunkers where Diddy's freak-off parties take place. The music is famous for his wild parties, which many of his industry colleagues, including former mentees and associates, have spoken about at length. 50 Cent once insinuated that these parties were gay parties, and though he didn't have anything against gays, it was his kind of party, so he would rather not go. He told his teeming fans at his musical concert he had stopped attending Puffy's parties. Usher also spoke about Diddy's parties when he sat in an interview with Howard Stern on the Sirius XM network. He spoke of what he saw at those parties and wondered to himself if he could indulge as a then 13-year-old. Diddy's former mentee and bad boy signee Mark Curry also once opened up about a Diddy party that he attended where he saw half models popping pills into the mouths of the patrons. He then described how specific bottles believed to contain spiked alcohol were marked and reserved for certain people, while the average person was allowed to consume regular alcohol. Cassie Ventura told of parties where she was forced to sleep with several male streetwalkers. Then there was Rodney Jones Jr., who spoke about parties where young ladies were coerced into S-acts with patrons. Now, all these people never mentioned where these parties took place, leaving room for speculation. But given the exclusivity of the intricate tunnels, it isn't far-fetched to assume that parties of that caliber would take place there. Interestingly, some sections of fans actually believe that the tunnels were the main locations for these freak-offs. They believe this is why it is becoming difficult for the feds to get evidence for such parties. In the fans' estimation, Diddy might have intricately designed the tunnels himself to ensure he had several escape routes if the feds got a tip and were closing in on them. Talking of escape routes, it is believed that Diddy used one of these tunnels to escape the long arms of the law when the feds raided his compound. The feds made a cacophony of noises when they breached Diddy's compound, which could have alerted him to their presence, allowing him to escape. Reports from news outlets suggest that the 17,000 square foot mansion has an underwater tunnel with a speedboat fully gassed up and ready. In March, feds raided the two mansions of Diddy in Miami and LA, following several reports of illegally transporting women and men to work as streetwalkers. At least one lawsuit against the music mogul accused him of running a ring that included selling people, laundering money, and forcing themselves on women. Based on intelligence, the feds stormed the homes, but Diddy was nowhere near his residence. His two sons, Justin and King Combs, were reportedly handcuffed and questioned. This annoyed their money, who took to social media to vent her spleen on the treatment of her sons. Misa Hilton, the mother of the children, played the race card when she alleged that her children would have been handled differently if they were of a different race. She described the feds' actions as overzealous and militarized, describing how several beams of red laser were targeted at her son's chest. The overzealous and overtly militarized force used against my sons Justin and Christian is deplorable. If these were the sons of a non-black celebrity, they would not have been handled with the same aggression. The attempt to humiliate and terrorize these innocent young black men is despicable. Enough is enough. Did Justin need several laser beams from firearms pointed at his chest? Did Christian need a pointed at the back of his head while he was handcuffed? She added, how many times have we seen young unarmed black men not make it out of these types of situations alive? Curiously, Diddy's sons weren't the only ones subjected to the military force exerted by Homeland Security. According to music producer Stevie J, he was sitting outside Diddy's studios when he heard a loud followed by a few helicopters hovering over the compound and several men rushing towards him. He recounted that these men were all armed to their teeth with rifles and defensive shields. A few seconds later, he saw several red dots on his shirt, with men shouting commands at him to get down on the floor. After he was handcuffed, he demanded to see the officer in charge, and he was obliged. What became of the meeting with the officer wasn't disclosed, but it appears it led to an amicable settlement. However, when all these events unfolded at Diddy's $40 million mansion, the music mogul was nowhere to be found. Some reports indicate that Diddy was on his way to the Miami Opa-locka Executive Airport. Many believe he was in the Miami residence when the raids took place but got away via the underwater tunnel. Others believe that he was just hiding in one of the numerous tunnels and only resurfaced when he was sure that the coast was clear. Curiously, the feds didn't appear to be on the hunt for Diddy, so it didn't make sense to evade them. Rather, they seemed to be looking for evidence to build their case against the mogul. So they wouldn't mind him escaping because if they wanted to, they could get him. However, singer Jaguar Wright has an interesting but different take on how the raid was carried out, and it is eye-opening. According to her, the feds somehow suspected Diddy had links in the security agencies, so they informed no one of the impending raids. She claimed that not even the men on the ground knew whose house they were going to storm until they got there. So the raid on Diddy's home took the raiders themselves by surprise, and that's if Jaguar Wright's words are true. She explained that the officers were only informed a few hours before the incident, but they didn't know where they were going. Now, here's where it all gets interesting, because Wright isn't the first person to accuse Diddy of having links in law enforcement. In Rodney Jones' suit against the music mogul, he alleged that Diddy had links in both Los Angeles and Miami law enforcement. Cassie also insinuated the same thing, which was why she didn't report Diddy to the police during their tumultuous 10-year relationship. Rodney explained that Diddy's links were facilitated and maintained by his head of security, Fahim Muhammad, who happened to head Michael Jackson's security detail before his demise. Rodney recalled that Diddy instructed his signees and mentees to call Fahim Muhammad whenever they ran into problems with law enforcement officers. In his suit against Diddy, he recounted an incident where Diddy and his son Justin allegedly broke the law, but Fahim helped them clean it up. The incident occurred at the Cheris Recording Studios in Los Angeles, where Diddy and Justin had gone to work on a project. While working, they got into a heated confrontation with another man named G. The man left for the bathroom but was still pursued by Diddy and his son. Gunshots were heard from the direction of the bathroom, causing everyone to rush towards the sound. On arriving there, they sway Diddy and Justin standing over G, who was bleeding from his hip. Diddy later told everyone that the police were on their way and that they should inform them it was a robbery. When the police arrived, they went to the bathroom and cased the place, but somehow concluded that the whole incident was a robbery gone wrong. A few months later, the police produced 3 suspects, connected them to the shooting, and subsequently incarcerated them. That, according to Rodney Jones, was how Diddy and Fahim made that particular case go away without much furor. Aside from having links in law enforcement, Diddy allegedly pays off witnesses to his crime and forces them to sign NDAs. When the footage of Diddy laying his hands on Cassie started going rounds on the internet, y'all be asking why the hotel security and staff didn't report Diddy, right? Well, it turns out Diddy may have paid them hush money. According to Gene Deal, the former bodyguard of Diddy, he suspects Diddy gave them some money to shut them up and for the footage. However, it isn't clear how CNN got their hands on the video when it sure was in Diddy's custody. So, with these allegations at the back of our fans' minds, it's easy to see why many would argue Diddy has tunnels that link to his home. After all, a man who allegedly has law enforcement officials and security guards on his payroll could also have tunnels leading in and out of his home. And why wouldn't he? Given the various crimes he's been accused of perpetrating, it only makes sense that he always has a plan of escape should law enforcement come after him. For instance, new revelations show that Diddy had a hand in the passing of Craig Mack, one of the rappers who laid the foundation for Bad Boy Records. Before Diddy founded Bad Boy, he worked as an intern at Uptown Records, where he was in charge of A&R for the label. His hard work, tenacity, innovation, and drive saw him rise through the ranks to become vice president of the label under the late Andre Harrell. However, Diddy flew too close to the sun and got fired by Andre for insubordination. After he had left the label, he contacted Clive Davis, founder and president of Arista Records, to help him establish a hip-hop label. Davis then asked what the prospects of a hip-hop label were, to which Diddy played him Craig Mack's signature song, Flavor in Your Ear. When I met with Puffy, he articulated that hip-hop should be part of the top 40 mainstream, and that the business would change in the future, Clive said when he first met the precocious 23-year-old Puff Daddy. And I said, what have you got to illustrate that point? And he played me Craig Mack's Flavor in Your Ear. And he played me the then unknown artist that he felt and believed so strongly. He played me 4 or 5 cuts from Notorious Big. Clive Davis was convinced, and he introduced the young Diddy to his group of co-executives who ran the music industry. I said, okay, you proved your point. That's when I introduced him to the weekly, what we called singles meetings, Davis adds. I introduced him to an executive there as someone who would help lead us to the street and share in the forthcoming hip-hop revolution. So, from Clive Davis's interactions, it's clear it was Craig Mack's song that convinced him of hip-hop's potential because he could still remember the title after so many years. Mind you, this interview was done in 2013, approximately 20 years after Bad Boy Records was established. Of course, Davis claimed Diddy played him other tracks from Biggie Smalls, but he seemed not to remember the songs, but he did remember Mac's songs. So, it isn't far-fetched to assume that Bad Boy wouldn't be Bad Boy today without Mac's influence. Yet, Diddy allegedly engineered his demise. Craig Mack left Bad Boy and went off the radar for a while before he finally passed away. In an interview a few months before he breathed his last, Craig Mack detailed why he went underground, and it was eye-opening. According to the rapper, someone approached him to record an album. The amount the said individual offered to pay was lower than he expected, but he agreed to it all the same because he needed the cash. The person explained that they would pay him in 3 parts. One part before the recording, the other during the recording, and the last payment after the recording, which he didn't have any qualms with. He jumped into the studio and started recording, but the money wasn't coming, so he decided to stop, not wanting to be ripped off. Later, the said individual got pissed that Mack had stopped the project and confronted him. Mack explained that he abandoned the album because the money wasn't forthcoming, so no money, money album. So the person in question invited Mack to come to the studios to discuss the issue and probably make headway. Mack finally agreed, and the time was set at 7 a.m. the following day. Craig Mack then called his friend in to escort him to the studio at the agreed time. The next day, Craig showed up at the studio only to meet the individual with his goons. Apparently, they had come earlier than the agreed time to set an ambush. However, when they realized Craig's muscle had a they fell back. This annoyed the individual who started threatening Mac's life. He made the rapper's life so unbearable that he decided to revenge. According to Mac, he got a gun and then got into his sister's car, ready to go and eliminate the individual because he was tired of his threats. But first, he had to go and pick up his sister for work. While sitting in the car with the on his lap, a gospel song played on the radio, which touched his heart. He knew what he was about to do was wrong, so he begged God for forgiveness and had a change of heart. Thus, instead of shooting that individual, he decided to join a Christian organization and leave the hip-hop world. Now, during the interview, Craig Mack never mentioned Diddy's name. In fact, he never mentioned the name of the individual who threatened to end him. However, we suspect it is Diddy because first, Mack was one of the first artists, if not the first artist, signed to his label. Also, Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, once confessed in a separate interview that the music mogul cheated Craig Mack out of his sweat. He explained that Craig wasn't his only victim too, and that Diddy did the same to Notorious Big. However, unlike Craig Mack, Biggie found a way of also cheating Diddy out of the money that was due him. Apparently, Biggie found a loophole in the contract he signed with Bad Boy that allowed him to assign publishing rights to other people, and he took advantage. This way, Bad Boy didn't get their cut from publishing, which angered Diddy. So, Gene Deal thinks that Diddy was the mastermind behind Biggie's demise because of what he did to him. Anyway, that was just to give you a fair idea of how deep Diddy's mess goes. And curiously, many fans think that it isn't his fault he turned out like that. They suspect it all started with his mentor Clive Davis, who, they believe, had an affair with Diddy before giving him money for Bad Boy. They also suspect Clive Davis taught Diddy all that he knows now, including mistreating and manhandling women, given that Davis himself has an alleged history of that. A few years ago, Davis's signees at Arista, TLC, confessed that they once held a to his head because they believed he owed them some money. Narrating the incident, Tion T-Boz Watkins claimed that their album Crazy Sexy Cool had sold millions of copies and won many awards, but they were only given $50,000 apiece. Feeling cheated, they walked Clive Davis to demand answers by holding him at gunpoint. We held the record company, including founder and president Clive Davis, hostage with bullets because TLC had generated on Crazy Sexy Cool $75 million and they gave us $50,000 apiece, and I was like, what the hell? So of course, Lisa Left Eye Lopes was the ringleader. We had a limo driver and he was the getaway car. However, Diddy saw them and quickly notified Clive Davis about the girls' intentions, allowing him to prepare for their coming. We got up there and held everybody hostage, and Puffy was the one that snitched us out. He caught us because we kicked him out of the meeting. We interrupted Puffy's meeting, we were like, sorry, we really got to handle this. We were getting sick and sweating, really working hard for this money, and wanted to know who the hell had our check. L.A. Reid, who was then Arista's CEO, said Clive did, so that's where we went. Fortunately for them, the matter was settled amicably, and they got some money from the label boss, but he found a way of recouping all that he spent that day. So, the girls finally had no choice but to leave the label. Now, considering these revelations from Gene Deal, Jaguar Wright, and TLC, do you see why Diddy might need underground tunnels? For now, he is under investigation for ST, HT, and other related offenses. No formal charges have been put forward, but I hear investigators are doing their best to build an airtight case against the Bad Boy Records CEO. I hear investigators have interviewed victims of Diddy. Some have even been invited twice for questioning. It's not clear how the blueprint of secret tunnels allegedly connecting to Diddy's house would help the investigators. But I believe that given all the lawsuits and pieces of evidence at hand, the feds have all the ingredients to build a solid case. This is how I bow out of today's episode. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.